Oh, the devil. Oh, you. I'm one for luck. Oh, right. So, the tail end of last year, Fosi brought out the ZA3, or for my American chums, ZA3. And everybody who was anybody got sent one of these amps, or two of them. Except for me. World's smallest violin. Right. So I bought some myself anyway and tried them out. And I thought they were very, very good. Really good. But I questioned whether buying two of them to have in mono was worth the expense when it's getting into integrated amplifier territory. You know, where you can get bass and treble controls, more connections, phono stage, etc. I just questioned whether you would want to get them over an integrated amp, and I found they sounded as good as my Rotel amp, but not particularly better, maybe louder, but you know, loudness is meh. Do you know what I mean? How loud do you want to listen to something? So anyway, so they ghosted me that time, and I thought, oh, maybe they're not my friend anymore. But recently, I got an email from Fosi asking me if I wanted some of the V3 mono amps. I guess I about to say that, in V3 mono amps, two of them obviously. And I went, oh, deal me in, son. Yes, please. So I'm back in their good books now. Now, the thing is though, it seems that I've been waiting for these for 10 days to come, tracking them from China. Took flipping ages to get to the UK. And it seems that all the American reviewers have had them first, like last week. I'm like, what's going on? It's not fair. They got them before us over in Europe. Why I order? Anyway, but hang on. I left it over there now. Hey, oh. Right, so, so there's loads of videos on these at the moment. But hey, I'm late to the game, but better late than never, eh? Come on, you know it. Right, so I'm not going to go too much into specs. I'm going to quickly open the box, have a little look through it, because all I want to do is have a listen to these and see how good they are, because Amir over at ASR is raving about these, how good they are, and how low distortion they've got. So anyway, and everybody's talking about
PFFB, post-filter feedback technology.
Right, so anyway, so this is supposed to reduce distortion, enhance linearity and frequency response, improve sound purity and system efficiency. So that's what Fosi says, and I think everybody agrees that it does, okay? There's a lot more in-depth reviewers have gone more in-depth into PFFB, but hey, go and watch them if you want. All I'm interested in is how good they sound. So let's get this out of the box, quickly go through what we got in there, right? And then give it a sound test later on in the video. Because you know, I love a sound test. Oh, you know it. Oh. Right, here it is. Ta-da! So it's come in two boxes. The one main box with the power supply and the two mono blocks. Okay, the power supply, which a lot of the other reviewers are getting, is the 48 volt 10 amp power supply. It's pretty massive. It's probably about the same size as the monolith in a 2001 A Space Odyssey. It is a lump, okay. And like a lot of the other reviewers, it comes with a splitter cable, so you can plug that in there, like that, boink, like this, and then plug them into two of the amps, so you've only got one power supply. Now, most reviewers said it was fine. I couldn't notice the difference between a single power supply and a dual one, this one here, whatever. And but one reviewer said he got some feedback noise from this power supply, because the whole point of having mono amplifiers is to have separate power supplies so you don't get any distortion or noise feedback. And one reviewer said he did get some noise feedback, but we'll see if I do or not. Anyway, we'll find out later on. Let's have a look at the amp quickly. Yoink! And you must have seen it on the other one. So here we've got, let's have a look. So we got off, you got XLR and RCA. Then you got auto, so that'll power off after 10 seconds of non-use. And as soon as it detects a signal, it powers back on again. That's handy, or you can have it straight on. Okay, on the back, we've got the gain. So it's got, if I can see that without my glasses on, it's 36 or 35. I can't flip and see it. 31 dB, 25 dB. So depending on how loud your input signal is, you can change that accordingly. I'll keep it on 30 odd. Is that 31? I don't know. What does it say on there? I can't see it without my glasses on. Got RCA. Now this gain only works with the RCA. I don't think it works with the XLR. Then you got your output then left and right channels to the speakers. Now the weird thing is though, it's still got these small little binding posts on the back. Meh. Meh. Very hard to get wires through there. Quite small. Anyway, but apart from that, it's a very decent, well-built bit of kit. Anyway, let's get them connected up and see how they flipping sound. Right, okay. So the first thing, I've got them all plugged in. So what I did, I used my Rotel amp as a preamp, because you're going to need a preamp for these. Or a DAC or something with a volume control, because they got no volume knobs. So you're going to need that to start. Okay, so I used the pre-outs on my Rotel RAO1. It's got some pre-outs on it, great. So I like an amp with a pre-out on it because it comes in handy sometimes. And but I did run into a few issues. So the first one was, I've got 9-gauge speaker cable. And when I first plugged them in, it just flipped the amps up because they're only small. Oh, they got quite warm actually. Oh, because I have been listening to these. Just went to touch them and I was like, oh, it's quite warm. So that was the one issue, but I fiddled around with it and I got them to lay flat then. But here's the thing with that. So you need to look at your setup, where you're going to put them. Because ideally for me, what I would like to have is this one here and this one there. Okay, on that end down there, okay? But I couldn't do that because of that splitter cable. So for my setup, I would prefer to have 2 separate power supplies. Now I didn't get any feedback or distortion or noise when I plugged it in. Even when I turned the volume up, I couldn't hear anything. So the reviewer may have had a faulty power supply, or it could be something down to UK versus US power supplies. I don't know, but I didn't get any feedback noise. But the only thing is, I would like to have these separated, one there and one down the end. So 2 separate power supplies for me in my setup would be good. But if you've got a desktop a desktop setup, easy for you to say, then the splitter cable is fine, it's okay. So what do I think of them sound-wise? Well, rather than me tell you, here's my genuine reaction, right, to listening to these, okay? Have a listen to this. So I got to say, this amp is something like 40 watts a channel, I think it is, RMS. And these really boost the power massively. I mean, 40 watts a channel is normally fine, okay, it's fine. But I played these at ridiculous volumes, well over 90 dB. There was absolutely zero distortion. I couldn't, not that I could detect. And I was getting it to levels unlistenable for my listening room, okay. I only had to have the volume about here, just literally a quarter of the way up. It was blasting. So if you've got an amp that's a bit underpowered for your speakers, these could be the answer to that. Flipping heck. Absolutely blasting, no distortion, really clear, very punchy. Oh, loved it. Really enjoyed listening to these. Anyway, so what I want to do now though is to, obviously we know that these attached to this amp, they're way louder, way more powerful. I think I'm getting about 120 watts. I think into 8 ohms potentially, I think so per channel. I think that's about right. But when they're volume matched, do they enhance the sound at all? That's what we want to know. Or is it pretty much the same? We've established they're way louder, okay? They go loud, ridiculous, with no distortion. But when they're volume matched, at lower volumes, do they sound any better than this Rotel amp? Well, there's only one thing for it, isn't it? A sound test. Sound test. Sound test. So what do you reckon on that, eh? Oh, well, I think the V3 monos were better. Oh, controversial. I thought they were just cleaner right the way through the frequencies. Bass was a bit more tight and coherent, and I think they were a bit more open as well. Yeah, I do think they were better than Rotel. Flipping heck, I wasn't expecting that when you match the volume. Now, when I matched the volume with the Rotel when I tested the ZA3s, I didn't think the ZA3s were any better. So therefore, for me, I think the V3 monos are better than the ZA3s. Oh, blimey, governor. I'll put a link in the description box below to their Kickstarter. They got some offers on at the moment. You can get different variations, you know, different power supplies and things like that. So have a look at that, link in the description below. One thing I will say though, which I forgot to mention earlier is that I had to turn my amp on first, then the V3 monos. Otherwise, what would happen is if the V3, why can't I speak today? What is going on? If the V3 monos were on auto or on, when I turned on my amp, there was a big thump come through the speakers, quite loud. And also the same when you turn it off, coming through the speakers. I didn't like that. But what I found was, if I turned my amp on first and then turned on the Fosi Audio V3 monos, it was okay. But the problem is that kind of defeats the object of the auto, doesn't it? Anyway, but it might just be this amp. I don't know if it does it with every preamp. I don't know. But there we are. Just thought it's best to tell you and let you know. Anyway, that's come to the end of the video. Would love to know your thoughts down below. And I'll catch you in the next one.